All right, so the point of this video was just to break down pretty much like the anatomy of a page and how we work. Like we never really sat down. Me and you never sat down and went over the construction of a page. We just trust each other and we get what we get and we work with it. That's basically our workflow, right?
Right.
So like I don't even know your approach. Like with this page right here, right? Like I have no idea. Like it makes sense to me now because I've seen it for so long. But when you're staring at a blank page, do you always have your thumbnails ready, or do you sometimes just freestyle it and make your panels as you go? And how focused, like just so people know, we're both been graphic designers longer than we've been illustrators. Like I've been a graphic designer since '95, right? So that kind of like perverts your fucking perception as far as comic books go, because you kind of like, I have to stop myself from making things line up perfectly when it's not necessary in comic books. It's necessary in graphic design, but not in comic books. You know what I mean? So it's like I had to like force myself to relearn how to let things happen organically. So I don't know if that's an issue for you, or do you just fucking go full force ahead and just let it happen?
Oh yeah, like I got the thumbnails. This is exactly like the thumbnail. This is the thumbnail, like verbatim. So it's an intro page for this like 5 or 6 page space scene introducing all new characters that we haven't seen in the issue yet. Although this isn't the first page of the issue, right? This is like page 23. So this is a group of people that we just haven't seen before, but one of their names has been mentioned. So the guy in red in the center of the page here, Mackenzie. This page isn't actually fully colored yet, but we have a lot of the colors down for it. But this is Mackenzie, who's the lead astronaut here. He's also somebody who is like a loser from the last war, right? So that's the whole reason why they're on this mission. And this is the first time we're seeing these people, so that's why I tried to make a clear, like, vision of them. Like, so you could see like Mackenzie kind of walking down the aisle here in his 5-person astronaut team. They're docking on a sun satellite. I mean, we have a couple different names for them, right? We have like solar satellite. We have a few different names for the sun satellites, but basically because in our story there's no more sun, the sun is gone. So the human beings have to use satellites to provide like heat, warmth, and light.
And he just lost the one he had to one of the main characters, Donovan Cordova. So he's pretty much forced to try to go up in space and get a new one for his part of town, which is fucked up. It's kind of a messed up situation. Like either find one or die basically. Because for the first issue, Ant would lay out the pages, lay out the like do all the layouts and the penciling, and then I would get them and for the most part I was inking them digitally and starting the colors, and then he would finish the colors. How detailed do you get? I get so fucking lost in the details. Like I would look up like science journals and just Google all this random shit, because as you go through the atmosphere, you would see like the nebulas and the stars and all that other shit as you're going through it, right? But once you get into space, you don't see any stars because there's no light. And if there's no light, there's nothing to reflect light off of. I mean, because there's nothing up there. There's nothing. If it's just space, space is just empty space. The only reason where you see that in the atmosphere is because it has an atmosphere to capture the light. As if like if me and you are in a room and I shine a laser, you're not going to see that laser until we put dust in the air. You know what I mean? So that's why when you're in outer space, it's all black. You don't see shit. You see nothing because it's just empty space and there's nothing for light to bounce off of. So I found that out. But like I have to remind myself that it's a fucking comic book. You don't have to stick to the fucking facts 100% of the time. You just want it to look cool as well, right? So I did the space background to that page, but then later on I was like, oh, this has to be all black because that's the way to be. But it's like, does it? You know what I'm saying? Like, does it though? Like I've never ridiculed like a comic book for not having space be all black. You know what I mean? Like what like do you like what do you think about all that? I know sometimes we go back and forth, like you're saying, like we gotta look cool, we gotta fucking, it's a comic book. It doesn't have to be scientifically like accurate every step of the way.
Yeah, like especially when being scientifically accurate would go contrary to people understanding the story. So if it was like truly accurate and the backgrounds are just black, people are just going to think that we didn't do a background. I don't know that they're going to know like, oh, it's black because they can't see the stars because there's no atmosphere. I don't know, or
Yeah,
there's so much space in between each star cluster that you just see black. I don't know exactly, but in our comic, I guess we want it like, it's like instead of form, instead of function over form, it's like form over function. Like, it's got to look cool and be understandable, rather than be totally scientifically accurate. And then maybe we lose some of the understanding, especially if people aren't informed about like what
yeah. I
would
know what you're
actually
saying.
be there. Yeah, so even though the previous page to this one here was actually the intro of these characters, I thought that the characters needed a more illustrated intro, more full page intro. So this is a full page spread on these astronauts, more of an intro for each astronaut, color of their suit as well, so we could more clearly see who's who.
Yeah.
Because in a couple pages, it's really going to matter. Like some of these people are going to be killed off. So I wanted to show that, the two women were two different colored suits. So we know when we see Bernadette, like, oh, she has a lighter colored suit. And then there's this other chick who has a blue suit. And then for the guys, it didn't so much matter, right? Except for Mackenzie, which you picked the colors for Mackenzie, I think, and the couple other background characters that are dressed in red. So Mackenzie's the more forward character. He had to have something distinct because he's the leader. And then we have to have some, different colors for the other astronauts because they're going to be killed off. So we have to be like, oh, the red guy or the other guy, like the green guy got killed. So we have the astronauts, disembarking here off the spacecraft, which you saw it docking in the previous page. Now, you kind of get to see their equipment. You get to see that they're carrying these suitcases, which will come into play in a couple pages, where the suitcases turn into a tool for the astronauts to try to fix stuff.
Yeah, I remember coloring this one out. That was basically the point. I remember having to give Mackenzie like a standalone look, so we went with that whole like gunmetal gray and orange highlight, orange like accents. Yeah, definitely wanted that guy to be visible as well. The one whose face is like glowing green, either from the interior lights or whatever. Does not really necessary to explain it, but I just want him to be recognizable. So if he dies, that's that guy that died. Then we have that one guy who has like a straight up full mask. It was like a motorcycle mask to the right. Bernadette. I kind of left Bernadette's colors to you because I wasn't really sure how you wanted to go with Bernadette's colors. So I left her just blank. Yeah, but yeah, that was a big deal to make them all stand alone. So when they're floating in the next pages, you know who's who. Easy to remember. That's kind of a thing too. Like giving characters, when you design a character, kind of give them these characteristics that stand out and they're remembered. Like when I first drew Bernadette, remember we had like she had like the tattoos on her face and her eyes were kind of inverted. But then like when we drew it, she wasn't looking like that. So we're like, oh, maybe we can put it in the story where something happens and explains how she got that way, which is pretty dope. Which is real cool, I think.
From here we get to another page here. It's actually kind of in progress for this space scene. You see one of the construction kits opening up and encasing one of the astronauts that you saw on the previous page dressed in red.
That's the green face guy.
Right. So that's actually the next color that I will do. I'm working on this page currently, and this will get colored in like that highlighter yellow will be his kind of astronaut bubble helmet. And I thought that this was cool to zoom in and do some detail on the construction kit apparatus and what that looks like kind of close up. And then we have Bernadette coming in behind. As you can see, there's a couple astronauts here, but we have Bernadette kind of coming in heroically as you see in this wide shot that the astronauts are disembarking and coming onto the satellite where they need to repair the satellite to get any kind of heat or like warmth out of that satellite. It's broken at the moment. So that's one thing that they're here to do. And to get into there, they need to get through this door, and this thing's stuck. So that's the reason why the construction kit kind of turned into an exosuit. This guy can control that. He can maybe he's connected to it almost like Bluetooth, right? So he can communicate with it and kind of make something out of it. And I think Kevin actually I penciled this page and Kevin inked this, and now I'm in the coloring process.
Yeah, this one of the pages that was we use actual ink right on the paper. And what just hit me that's kind of funny. If anyone knows you, it's hilarious. I think we got to put like a trash cloud, bro, in the background. Your favorite thing in every fucking superhero movie, because there's a lot of like space garbage running around, like floating around out here.
Yeah, we need like a little more of that.
I mean, I have that one layer from the poster I did with the ice, the frozen Earth, with all the satellites around it. We can literally just take that same layer and just chop it up and put it places. We don't have to spend like 1,000 hours like hand drawing it out.
Maybe you can create your own Procreate garbage brush.
Got a garbage brush. It's dope.
But we eventually get to a point where Bernadette is trying to loosen the wheel there because the previous astronaut failed. He got hit with some space debris, and now she's trying to loosen that wheel. So Mackenzie, he's one of the guys that's kind of back on the ship. He's going to throw off his construction kit to Bernadette here. This is also a page Kevin has.
I just started to ink the bottom, and you kind of took it from there. All the only thing I inked live was Mackenzie, and then I gave you the page, because then this was actually the day when you told me, like, yo, no, those 20 pages, we need those too. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, so I'm gonna give all this stuff back to you, and then I gotta get going. So this is the last page I touched as far as inking goes. Yo, so that the that device is kind of activating, right, as it's floating to Bernadette.
I felt like that was actually the last detail that I did here, because if you take a close look there, I'm going to switch to the next page. Which once I looked at the page that was going to be,
is that where she's
right
like with her arms out?
Right, she's accepting the device is actually connecting to Bernadette. So I kind of thought that to connect those two scenes, and I'll show you that scene right now. To connect those two scenes, we needed to have that suitcase kind of activate a little bit to show that it is turning into this color spectrum. So there's a little hint of that in that page there with the briefcase construction kit kind of sparking up a bit, and then Bernadette turns that into a tool of her own that she is going to use.
Oh, this is the page I was talking about. This is the page that
wheel here by making kind of.
So you did add stars to it. This is the page I was talking about that I inked. That was really dope, and it was all black ink.
Oh,
nice angle. That's a nice angle. Point of views. The point of views are nice. Yeah, this one is crazy. This chick is working. She's putting in work.
Yeah, that star brush set that I got helped with making the stars seem random. Kind of like something like you're used to when you see a comic, but you could see some parts here, like behind the bridge there, is pretty black. So I think there's room in certain other space pages to have less stars in certain spots. You know, there is like probably voids and stuff. And I would say probably this star set is more realistic than the more glorious star set. You know, there's different types of brushes. This one looks a little more realistic as far as the stars go, I think.
And we're doing conventional Bristol board, you know, the conventional stuff, blue line, papers away. Yeah, I mean, I think it has more heart when you ink it straight to the paper. Honestly, man, because digital is just too clean, and there's not enough variation in the strokes unless you really pay attention to that as you work, you know, second by second, which was like doesn't really happen for me anyway. I just see like it's almost like talking about music, like analog music of the 60s and 70s almost sounds better than this digital crispy music of today. You know what I mean? Has more heart back in the day, in my opinion. Same thing with this. Like drawing on paper is definitely has more soul than just drawing on the tablets. Like everything is too perfect. It's boring. You want things to look interesting.
Yeah, for colors, it's like you can't beat the computer.
Oh, for colors,
tablet.
Yeah, for colors, you got to be on the computer, definitely.
Right. This is all artwork that we scanned in through a large flatbed scanner, and then input it into our Procreate iPad programs to do the coloring at the very end.
Our workflow isn't set in stone. It's not like it doesn't always happen the way we just said it happens. Sometimes I might pick up a micron and start drawing. Sometimes I might sketch loosely and then just finish like a detail with the ink itself. Or one day I might pick up, you know, a brush instead of a micron and go crazy heavy with the brush. Like you've seen sometimes I've actually just spilled like ink on the page and then spread it out with tissue. You know what I mean? So it's like it's nothing is set in stone. We just kind of just go with the flow as we're in the moment, and it works out beautifully.
There's still time to back Albatross Junction on Indiegogo. There's a link in the description for Albatross Junction, Volume 1 graphic novel. There's still time to back this book. Go and check it out. Come back for more comic book creation videos. We're going to do another page set from issue 2 next time. We're going to post that video on Wednesday night. Subscribe right here to Comic Book Creation Live.
Follow us on Instagram, Albatross_Junction.